This is the podcast overview for week 10 of Intro Psych, where we will be covering Chapter 12, Social Psychology. Here is your to-do list for the week. So let's go over some of this just so you don't miss anything. You're going to want to look at the objectives, which are below, and there's a podcast that goes with those as well to kind of outline what you're going to be looking at in terms of Chapter 12. I've included the lecture slides as well that you can either print out or just have open next to you while you're reading the chapter is helpful. You're covering Cicerelli and White, Chapter 12, which is all about social psych. And then you're also covering the Hawk reading 10.4, which this week is on the Milgram study. Also, you'll read about that in Chapter 12. And the Milgram study is about obedience. So that was the area in which Milgram chose to build his career, looking at people's obedience to authority. I've included several different videos this week. Some are very short and brief, and a few are a little bit longer. Social psych's a huge area, and it's also my specialty area, so I'm a little biased. I love it. I think it's fun. There's a lot of great stuff, and it covers a lot of material. So in social psych, you're covering everything from obedience to compliance to love and relationships to prejudice and discrimination and racism, to working together in groups. So it's a really wide area. So I've tried to include a video on kind of each major sub-theme within social psychology, so you can check those out. Then you have your discussion board postings that will be due, and there's a quiz. So here are the objectives, and you're going to want to click here to listen. I outline each of these in detail, your lecture slides. And here's where the videos start. We've got a modern day take on the Milgram study. This is good to watch after you've read. In fact, you should do the readings first before you watch any of the videos. So that way you kind of have an understanding and a baseline before you dive into the videos, which will then help illustrate the readings a little bit further. So this is a modern take on Milgram's study. This was done, I believe, in about 2008 by Jerry Berger, and it looks at how the study was done more recently. Milgram's study was run in the 60s, and looks at some differences that were found. This study also included women, which the original Milgram study did not, so you'll look at some gender differences when it comes to obedience. And I've included some questions to consider. These are just to help you follow along and make sure you're getting the key points from each video. You don't have to do anything with these questions. They're just there to help you understand. I've also included a video on prejudice and racism. This was Jane Elliott's study she did with her 3rd grade class, looking at the origins of prejudice. I've got another video looking at implicit bias, which often feeds into prejudice and discrimination. So this is the IAT test, the implicit association task, which looks at biases that we're not even aware that we have when it comes to other people. And it's a short video. I have Ash's conformity experiment. This is the original experiment that Solomon Asch did on conformity to others. It's a very quick one. And then I've included a Khan Academy video on conformity and groupthink. So we'll want to check that out. There's a video on bystander intervention. This is the area of pro-social behavior within social psychology, and this is the Kitty Genovese case, which spawned a whole area looking at bystanders who witness an emergency and what happens in that kind of a setting, who helps. Again, along with bystander intervention is this video. It's a what would you do video with a mock child abduction, and you mainly can look to see how the bystanders react in this situation. This video has to do with social facilitation and social loafing. This is a Khan Academy video, again, very short, just outlining what happens in settings where we're working with other people. And the famous Stanford prison study. Some of you may have seen this in intro psych if you took it in high schools. It also shown in other classes, sociology and related classes, but it's Phil Zimbardo's famous prison study where he did a mock prison setting for his study, and he looked at how people, the participants, changed over the course of the study due to authority and due to the roles that they played. And then I have some crash course videos. These are great kind of overviews, recaps. So I would, you could either start with these to kind of get a good overview or end with them to kind of reiterate everything that you've learned. This one's on social thinking. This one deals with social influence. So you'll see the Milgram study mentioned here and the Zimbardo study mentioned here. Then I have one on prejudice and discrimination, and one on aggression and altruism. Altruism is also in the area of pro-social behavior and how that contrasts with aggression. And then lastly, I've included a movie video. It's actually, I found it on YouTube. I'm hoping it still works. Sometimes they pull these if they're up on YouTube illegally. But I think it's also on Netflix too, if you have a Netflix subscription. But this is more just for fun. It's a great movie. I mean, lots of really popular actors and actresses, and it just illustrates so many good points with prejudice and racism today and how it affects people. And there couldn't be a better time, I think, politically with what's going on in the world and what's going on particularly in our country than now to watch a video like this. It really helps put things in perspective. So I highly encourage it if you want just to do like a fun movie night. This is really a great movie. And so you can watch that, you know, with your friends or something like that and make a night of it. And it's going to help hopefully illustrate and solidify a lot of the concepts that we'll talk about in the class. All right, and then your discussion deals with the Milgram study. Here are your questions, looking at what kinds of factors contributed to people's tendency to obey authority. So in the Milgram study, you have a mock situation set up where people are shocking other people, and what affects that? What factors about the setting, the experiment, lead to that? What factors about the person makes him or her more or less likely to obey? And how do you think people today would respond to the Milgram study? So you're going to want to look at that Milgram revised video that I talked about to get some hints there. And then I want you to think about one event in the last 10 years that might mirror the Milgram study. A situation where people are maybe forced to obey or feel like they have to obey, and what the ramifications are of that. You can, broaden this to so many situations. You can look at, politics. You can look at education. You can look at the military. You can look at job settings, parental situations. There's so many different relationship dynamics where authority plays a role and one's obedience to authority plays a role. But I want you to think about a recent event that's been in the news in the past 10 years and why it mirrors the Milgram study. So explain to me, make a case to me as to why that situation mirrors the Milgram study. Okay, and then lastly, you have your quiz. Quiz number 9, and that's going to close by Friday, so you just want to make sure to get that in. and quiz number 9 is covering chapter 12. So it's on social psychology. And that wraps up your week. If you have questions, please email me and let me know.